Hello, and welcome to another episode of RVations, RV renovations, restorations, and general repairs, maintenance, and all things RV. Today we're doing the thing nobody wants to do. Black water valve replacement repair. So, here's a situation. I had a seep in that black water valve that turned into a drip, and on my last trip, the drip turned to a drizzle. To the point I had to have a catch pan under it, and I was dumping that twice a day back down the toilet. Got the tank all dumped out, cleaned out, flushed out, got it home, tried to see exactly where the leak was from. If it was the valve, they sell these cartridge valves independently, a couple bucks, no problem. Well, it's not. The flange broke, which wouldn't be a problem if it broke on the valves, on the Y side, but it didn't. It broke on the tank side. So that is glued to the black water tank elbow, and that's how much room you have to try to cut and put a new fitting in there, which is to say none. So that's the conundrum. I bought an entire valve assembly. I guess this is like a 3-inch and a 1.5-inch for the gray water. This is around 40 bucks on Amazon. So my plan is, what's my plan? My plan is to use a Fernco. Cut this here and then slip a 3-inch Fernco over top of which is going to be tight, but I think it'll work. See, that's just not quite going to fit. So I'm going to have to try to stretch that out and try to get it mounted, cut that, and then try to slip it over. If that doesn't work, plan B is to cut behind this coupling and then Fernco that with a piece of nail glued into there. So either way, I think I'll get her done. So that's plan A, that's plan B. So we'll see. So basically I'm going to unbolt the valve at that flange here, cut this, pull that all out. I've already taken my valve off here, my gray water valve, so now I have an extra gray water valve, which is nice. Of course, this flange stays with the Y body. Alright, so about to get into her. Got my Sawzall here, and stay tuned. Okay, so better part of the afternoon on this. Was hoping it would go kind of quick and easy, but it didn't. I ended up going with plan B. I was not going to be able to get that fern coupler, that Fernco, over the female flanges, meaning that and that, which is what I cut off of the elbow. So I ended up taking the Sawzall. It wasn't super easy to get in there, but I was able to do it with a long Sawzall blade and slice off that the female part of that 90-degree elbow. So that's a 90-degree elbow that goes directly into the black water tank there. So you don't really have much at all to work with. So once I was able to get the female part of that coupler, the Fernco was able to slide. I was able to get enough Fernco over the elbow there, and then got a little bit of 3-inch PVC and was able to slice a piece of that, which is the white that you see there. Primer, once I had it all fitted, and glue that in, and then get that Fernco slid back that way enough to get, was the part I had the most problem with, the gray water valve, trying to get that assembled with the O-rings in place. There's 2 O-rings, one inboard, one outboard, and I kept there with this Fernco acting as partially as a bend. There was just so much pressure on this, it was just almost impossible to line these up square without the O-ring, and that's exactly what happened. Is the O-ring slipped out, and I bolted it down, and I ended up biting one of these O-rings, which is fine because I had 2 of the originals, but I had to take this apart 3 times. This was nice and tight. I put some water in there, didn't have any problems with it. This was leaking at the O-ring, the inboard O-ring there, and it was a real pain in the butt. Again, I don't have much. I'm working in this little cubby hole here sitting on the ground, and that leaked like 3 times on me. I had to take that apart. What I ended up doing was finally taking it apart, sitting the O-ring, and then putting my bolts in, and then it was just a real pain, honestly. I could have used an extra set of hands, but there's just no room for them. Anyway, it's all good now. It's all tight, and it is serviceable because of that Fernco. So if I need to replace this whole assembly again, I can. No problem, because I can disassemble that, replace the whole valve assembly, because I have a Fernco in there now, which is nice, and that gives it a little flexibility. So what was wrong with this was not 1, but 2 of these lower flanges broke. These bolts were terribly rusty. I broke most of the bolts trying to take them off. Many of them were quite corroded, which I guess if you're not leaking is fine, but you know, these weren't leaking and they were terribly corroded. Not really great hardware. I would recommend, if you have the time, to upgrade those to stainless steel, because they get rusty and busty and whatever. So what happened is probably this started leaking over here, and somebody tried to I don't know, tighten it up a little bit, and ended up busting the flanges off, and that just wasn't going to stay together, so that's where it was leaking. So there we go. Both those valves are good, so I'll probably save those as spares. One thing I don't like about the new one is these old valves had kind of like places that you could push them all the way in and lock them, and the new one doesn't. They just push all the way in, which is fine as long as they don't leak. But you know, when you're going down the road, it'd be nice if, you know, you could be sure that those wouldn't, if those kind of had a position. The old ones that I've seen, you'd push them in and then you turn them 90 degrees and they'd lock in there. These don't, so not super pleased about that. That's the brand name there, Valterra. I mean, there's stuff you could do, maybe get a bungee strap or something, wouldn't be a bad idea. I did put this at a slight down angle just so water doesn't stay in there. So that's about it. I have I pumped about 10 gallons of water, 5 gallons into the gray, 5 gallons into the black, and we are holding water, no drippy drips. So yay. I was kind of concerned about that Fernco because of the angle it was at, but I was able to grab enough pipe, and I can still tighten those down a little bit if I have to. I didn't go super tight. I didn't put a ratchet on them, just put a screwdriver, but they're holding tight. Hopefully that Fernco kind of forms up, and you know, anyway, that's what it ended up doing. Like I said, I was at this most of the afternoon, so you can see the spread I have here. Sawzall, clamps. This is the toolbox I carry on the RV. Got some PVC cement there, some PVC pipe. My neighbor, I didn't have to buy a full length of 3-inch. My neighbor was able to give me like 12 inches, which was great. And I ended up not using this coupler here, but I still have it if I need it. So there you go, man. It's brewski time. Job well done. Now I don't look like a redneck trash dripping from my dump valves sitting at my campsite. All right. Hope you enjoyed. Maybe you can use some of that information. All right. Have fun. Be safe camping. Enjoy.